Welcome to the comeback season, where we have real conversations about fueling your body, rebuilding strength, and stepping back into the life you were meant to live. Whether you've been caring for kids, aging parents, or just lost sight of your own needs, we see you. And this is your season to rise. Hello, my name is Nichole McLeod with Healthy Mind, Healthy Body. I'm a mindset and fitness coach and the author of I Started on a Tuesday. I know what it feels like to lose yourself in the chaos and still hold on to the hope that something better is coming.
And I'm Christi Kelsey from Christi Counts Macros, nutrition and mindset coach and food freedom advocate. I've worked with lots of women who felt stuck, restricted, and unsure where to even begin. Together, we're bringing you honest conversations, healing truths, and real strategies to help you rise again, physically, mentally, and emotionally, whether you've hit rock bottom or you're just tired of putting yourself last. This space is for you because this is your comeback season and it starts right now.
Welcome back to the comeback season. I'm Nichole, and today we're diving into a topic that so many people overlook. Everyone talks about finding that right fitness program, but the truth is, it's not about that plan on paper. It's about how you execute it, how you approach your workout, how you recover, and how you support your body outside of the gym all matter just as much as the exercises that you're doing.
And I'm Christy, and I couldn't agree more because we've both seen people pour their heart into showing up, but not getting the results they want. This was me just a few years ago before I learned how to work out a different way. And I'll tell you, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. So today we're going to break down what it means to train intentionally, recover effectively, and make lifestyle choices that back up your goals and explore the extras that can take your results to the next level.
All
Nichole?
right, let's dive in. It's
Yeah.
my passion, my love, fitness. I could talk about it all day long. So, intentional training. Why do we think that just this magical piece of paper that has the exercises that we can do are going to give us this perfect body? And I have so many clients that over the years have thrown in the towel because the program that they executed didn't work. And the reason for that is because it's not just about that program on a piece of paper. There is intentional science behind the, I guess, the framework of how you execute that. This is why, for example, when I'm working with my clients, I don't like to switch up the program, specifically the exercise. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I switch up the program, I don't switch up the exercises. Because, for example, range of motion, making sure you have proper form is the foundation and the most important part of your fitness routine. For example, if I'm executing a squat with the intention to work my legs and, of course, any other muscle that will be incorporated into that, if I don't have the range of motion in my hips and in my ankles, I'm not going to be able to perform that squat properly. So, what is the side effect of that? Well, the consequence, should I say, actually, would be injury, most common, right? And then, of course, when we get injured, we say, oh, forget it, I don't want to do this anymore. Or you're not working, you're not reaping the benefits that you could be because you're working partial of the, of your muscle group and you're not getting that full range of motion. So this is why I cannot tell people enough. Focus on the form. The range of motion is so important. If you're trying to do a specific exercise and you're doing it, excuse my language, half-assed because you physically can't get in that range, stop the exercise and look into the reason for the range of motion and work on the mobility first. We're so quick to want to jump in and do the exercise and not realize that if we don't take the time to perfect that exercise, and if we can't step back from it temporarily to work on our mobility and our range of motion, the range of motion, then we're not going to reap the benefits. And it's the number one reason that people step away from the fitness routine once they start. I'm sure you've had people in your life do the same, no?
Well, I'll tell you my own experience. I was doing an exercise and I got, for me, pretty high weights. And I started hurting my back every time I did that exercise. And so I dropped the weights way back, and I started working on form, and then I started working back up to those weights very
Yeah.
slowly. But I've injured myself just enough not to be permanent, but enough to have a wake-up call to realize I knew I was not doing that exercise with good form. And so luckily I knew enough to know that I needed to cut back the weight and work on my form.
That's, you know what, and that's a perfect example, because what people think is they need to load on the weight to get the results. But there's, you know, not, it's how many you're doing, how many repetitions you're doing. So if you're bringing down the weight, you simply up the reps, you're still going to reap the benefits. But you always want to start light and perfect the form. So in that season, fine, you're doing more repetitions, maybe more sets at a lighter weight to get the same similar benefits. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to lift heavy, especially women, because they don't want to look like a man. We've talked about this too. Ladies, you're not going to look like a man. You don't have the genetics to do that. Yes, you'll get muscle, which is a lovely thing to get, especially in menopause, because it makes life a lot easier. But the simple fact of starting to be mindful of your form, the tempo, that's another thing. When you're doing the up motion, the shortening of the muscle, the extension, the eccentric release, the down phase. So let's take a bicep curl, for example. The up phase is the concentric release, or the concentric tightening of your muscle, whereas the eccentric release is the lengthening of your muscle fibers. In that motion, you're going to potentially be able to grow bigger muscles because of the way that your muscles are recruiting. So the tempo plays a big role in the science behind your workouts. If you don't want to change up the actual exercises, simply by changing the tempo at which you're executing the exercise, you will reap more benefits and your body will have to readapt. So you don't need to, like I just said, change the actual exercises you're doing to change your program. You can simply change the tempo, you know, and the range, or the repetitions that you're doing them in, you know, how many, and of course the weight. Because the muscle engagement is going to be the same, just if it's lighter, obviously at a lesser capacity. But let's actually talk a little bit about muscle fibers. So DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, happens within 48 hours of after you work out. What is DOMS? DOMS is just basically small tears in your muscle fibers. That's how your body gets stronger. You break the muscle down, you build the muscle back up. So when you're doing a slow eccentric release, for example, it is going to be 20 to 60% more force on that. So you're lengthening that muscle fiber, you are going to see more definition, and you're potentially going to get bigger faster. So that's the beauty of playing around with the tempo of the exercise itself. Now, I do want to put out there that this isn't something that a beginner would do. So a beginner, just like when you prime your house for paint, you know, you gotta put prime on your wall if you want to cover up some dark paint before you put the new paint on. It's the same idea with preparing yourself for a certain program. You want to, your primer is going to be your mobility work, the stretching, getting ready, making sure you have that range of motion first, just like what you just did. You lightened your weight so that you could strengthen those muscles so that over time you can add more weight on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I like what you're saying. I have noticed the longer, I mean, I've been lifting weights for 3 years now. And when I first started, I didn't really have to, or I didn't really know actually that I should warm up. And now I do. So I just start with my first exercise. I do mine splits. My splits are upper body and lower body. So whatever big upper body exercise I start with a really light load, do like 5 reps, crank it up a little bit, do 3 reps, and then crank it up to like 90%, and then do 1 rep, and then I rest for a minute, and then I start with my full load. Another thing I've been doing is stretching before I exercise because I have certain muscles in my body that um, are easily pulled, like in my neck. And so now I know that I need to go and warm up my body before I just start lifting really heavy weights.
I just want to add on to that, stretching before you start working out. So if you've done your warm up, it's very important that your stretching is a dynamic stretch. So you want to do dynamic stretches at the beginning of your workout, and you want to do static stretches at the end. And the reason for that, especially, and it also, I guess, depends on what you're doing for your workout. But if I just warmed up, I'm going into a cardio session, and then I stop just to stretch, my heart rate's going to come down, right? So I want to be mindful. I also like doing dynamic stretches at the beginning of a workout because it also is part of my warm up. And get in that range of motion, whatever range of motion that I'm doing. Static stretches at the end, holding for at least 45 seconds is when your muscles are going to get the best benefit. So static stretch, hold for 45 seconds at the end is going to give you more flexibility overall. Think of it like toffee. If you took cold toffee and you bent it, what would happen?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if I warm up the toffee and then I bent it, what would happen? Right? So it's the same sort of thing. So you want to be mindful of when you're working or of when you're stretching and how you're stretching at what point in your workout.
Okay, so can you explain a little bit more about the difference between dynamic stretching and static stretching? I know you said some, but
So
give us.
movement stretching. So have you ever seen Frankenstein's, for example, bringing your leg up, touching your hand, alternating your legs up to try to get that range? That would be more of a dynamic stretch. So any sort of a movement that I'm opening up my chest. So basically moving while you're stretching.
Okay.
All right. So anything that you're doing with that is going to be considered a dynamic stretch, whereas a static stretch is a hold. So your muscle fibers aren't moving, your muscle fibers are staying put, and then we're stretching them out. We're not continuously contracting and expanding the muscle fibers. All right. But good question. So let's talk about quality over quantity too. This is another thing that people get tripped up at. If you're doing an exercise and you're struggling with the particular exercise because your brain hasn't figured out the movement yet, or you don't have the range of motion for it, you're going to be better off to go slow and steady and not do as many of them. But let's say you do have the proper range of motion and you can do the exercise properly. If it's just a mind fart that sometimes, and that happens, there's some clients that are like, I just can't figure out how to do this. Over time, you'll figure it out. But as you're practicing, you're better off to have fewer well-performed reps can be more effective than a high volume with poor form. Now, what else could go wrong? Well, if you're doing a high volume of them with poor form, you're going to hurt yourself. So you're just, don't put the pressure on yourself, even if you're having to lower your weight to get the movement pattern. If you're struggling doing 12, do as many as you can. The most important part is the quality. Are you doing the movement properly? And that's the most important part of working with a trainer. Because, and even myself, for example, when I'm working out and I get fatigued, my form goes too. Anybody's does. I don't care how good of a trainer you are. If you're in the moment and you're training hard and your body's getting fatigued, yeah, that's how you know that you've capped out. Your form starts to go. So it's really important to have somebody put eyes on your movement, especially when you're first starting out.
I've seen a lot of people at my gym doing, what we call junk reps. And I just think that that's like speed reading a book and not retaining anything.
The momentum, the people use the momentum, the hip
Yeah.
thrust for the bicep curls, for example, right? You can watch it, you can sit back and just analyze a gym, and you can 50% of the people in that gym will have terrible form. You know, nobody like, and I don't want to laugh at that, because, you know, there are a lot of people that are just trying and they're just doing the best they can and they don't want to ask for help. And I get that too. But there's definitely that demographic that just would rather make it look like they're lifting more and throw in a little momentum there. But that's a good point. The
Yeah.
benefits that you would get from that are far less than if you were slow and steady on a lower weight, right?
Yeah. And I think the point is that if you really want to see the results from your workouts, it's worth doing a little research at least. If you're
Yes.
not going to hire a personal trainer, it's worth doing some research. There's tons of videos on YouTube, all kinds of resources. So just do your research and make sure you have that form right. And yeah.
I can't say it enough. Um, there's been so many gyms over the years that I've gone to, and their feedback to my programming is I spend too much time explaining the exercises and I take too much time at the end stretching. My friends, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what it's supposed to look like, and you need to make sure that you're stretching and you're reaping those benefits and you're properly cooling down. I don't know how many clients I've had over the years just get to the gym, and you mentioned it, not warm up, you know, and then wonder why they hurt themselves, and then don't cool down, don't stretch. It's not just about the lifting of the weights. And we're definitely going to get more into that here. But let's quickly talk here about tracking also. Tracking your progress strategically, using sets, reps, resistant progression plans. This will help consistent improvement. If you don't have a baseline of where you're at, then you're not going to know where you want to be. And another thing to consider is that this will also help you change up your program along the way without changing the exercises that you've perfected, right? So being mindful of your starting line and recording it along the way. How do you record your workouts?
Well, when I first started, I just kept track in my phone. Like I would put the name of the exercise and my reps and weights that I was lifting. But now I have an app that gives me a program, and then it has a place where I can track my weights. So next week when I come to do those exercises, I can just see, I hit a little button and it pops up what I did last week. So I know that I need to do 9 reps 3 times this week instead of 8 reps.
And as long as you're progressing, as long as you're getting better, right? If you're doing overtime, more reps, more weight, increasing the temp, or I guess no, you wouldn't want to increase the tempo, but decrease the tempo, like I was talking about with that slow eccentric release. There's different methods that you can do, but just being mindful of them. But the starting point to that I really want to make sure people are hearing is tracking it. You need to make sure you're tracking your progress, because if you're not tracking your progress, you're missing out on so much opportunity. And what is another reason that you'd want to track your progress of anything but your body weight? What do you think the benefits of that are?
Say that again.
Why do you think that it's best to track all of your progress and not just your body weight, like how much you weigh, your body
Oh,
fat?
oh, okay. So yes, because, well, like you said, if you don't know where you started, you don't know where you've been.
That's very true.
Like it's good to have a baseline to know where you started, but um, as you lift weights, your body composition changes as well. So
There it
you
is.
comparing that to our body weight, it lifting weights doesn't necessarily in and of itself make you lose weight, but you will lose fat and gain muscle.
What do they say? Fit girls look great naked, skinny girls look great when they're dressed, or something like that. You know, it's a thing. Muscle is beautiful and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But getting on the scale daily and obsessing over your body fat is not ideal when starting out a program. I tell my clients, don't even look at the scale unless you have one of those Hume scales or that measure so many other things like your hydration, your muscle mass, you know, protein synthesis, all these very important measures that you need over and above losing body fat. And so obsessing over your weight is the second reason a lot of people quit their programs, because consistency will trump it every time. Consistency trumps any other method. As long as you're being consistent, even if it's 10 minutes a day, a client doing 10 minutes a day over the course of a year will be further ahead than a client jumping in at an hour a day for 3 months, 2 months. It's so much better to have that consistency. And if you have other measures that aren't just about your body weight, you know, that you can like key performance indicators, what makes you getting to your goal. If you have other goals that you're hitting, I went to the gym 4 times, or I got out and did my walk 5 times, or I perfected these 2 exercises. When we accomplish our goals, that motivates us to move forward. So don't put yourself in this little box so that you don't have those goals to look towards to accomplish. If it's only body fat that you are using as your indicator for success, you may be greatly disappointed. Focus on the little wins. Like I just said, the movements, the getting to the gym, you know, moving your body, whatever they are, and you'll see a lot more advances for sure. All right, so once we get the strategy of the workout down pat, another very important thing to discuss is the recovery. It is just as important as the execution. So I want to talk about that, and it's the missing link to so many programs. So I touched a little bit about the science behind muscle repair, but why are recovery days just as essential? Like I said earlier, DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. Your body has to recover. You just literally physically tore muscles, those little muscle fibers, they need to heal. And the only way they're going to do that is during your recovery. So being intentional with your recovery and what you're doing in your recovery is very important. Have you experienced, or have you had any clients experience overtraining before? And what did it make you feel like?
Oh yeah, I've overtrained myself and I ended up having to do physical therapy.
That's right, injury.
Partly partly because there was injury, but also I had muscles that were undertrained,
Mhm.
supporting muscles. But yes, that happens and you can feel it. You can feel it in your body when you're doing too much. It's almost like you can feel that you're not fully recovered. Even if you do have a rest day, you can feel that you're not fully recovered. And
That's where the injuries come in, right? So you would
yeah,
actually, that puts you at a 50% higher risk for injury when you do that. And believe it or not, some studies have shown that overtraining can reduce your strength by up to 20%. Because if your body can't heal properly, it's not going to reap the same benefits.
yeah, I've heard it explained like this. It's like building a house and tearing it down to the foundation to build it halfway up again.
Ooh, very good. I'm going to use that. No, I like that.
Because that's what you're doing. I mean, you're damaging your muscles, and
Mhm.
your body's response is to go in and repair it. It's not going to completely repair it in one day.
It's not. No, and even the 48 hours. So if you've had a big, you know, a good workout and you're really sore, even though DOMS caps at 48 hours, you can be sore for longer than that. So listen to your body. If you're sore, your body's telling you something. Listen to it. Did you know that 1 in 3 sports related injuries is linked to inadequate recovery time? Think about that. 1 in 3. Just because people are go, 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 trying, and it's great if they're committed to their sport, but then all that training still went out the window because now they've hurt themselves. And I've definitely done that.
Yes, and you know, I know that we definitely have a specific audience that we're trying to reach, but I have a teenage son who's on a basketball team, and I saw that last season with his team, and I think part of it is that they're the kids weren't eating properly. Like they're not getting enough protein. Their nutrition wasn't on. And so by the end of the season, you have all these injuries. They're working so hard during the week for their practices. They have games. And then by the end of the season, their bodies are just tired and they start breaking down.
It's kind of like how many people look like in life, we're all trying to just get by. We're not nourishing our bodies properly. We're jumping in, and this is when our bodies start to tell us it's not working. And that's usually done through chronic sicknesses and illnesses and injuries. So we need to start listening to our bodies more for sure.
Yeah, recovery does not happen on accident, and there are multiple things that go into recovery, sleep, getting
Let's
enough
talk about sleep.
pay. Um, so when we sleep, that is like prime. Our body kicks in and really starts to do the repair while we're sleeping. So if we're staying up late, waking up early, and not getting that full night's rest, we're cutting ourselves short of that rest and recovery time.
Your sleep directly influences your performance and your fat loss. If you are not sleeping properly, you will not release the body fat those as good. You won't, or build the same amount of muscle. You won't. Your body needs the recovery. Your body's going to be fixing those little muscle fiber tears while you're sleeping. So that's why it's very important.
And
I have some stats here. Oh, sorry.
oh, it's okay. Go ahead, read your stats.
My stats. So adults who get less than 7 hours of sleep see 10 to 20% drop in strength and endurance performance. That's insane. So less than 7 hours, 10 to 20% drop. Poor sleep can reduce fat loss by up to 55% during a calorie deficit, even when diet and exercise are the same. Think about that. 55%.
Yeah,
Chronic. Oh,
sorry, this is just going to go into what I was going to say is that our cortisol raises when we're under stress, and that is the stress hormone. And when our body receives that cortisol, it wants to store fat to give us energy later when we need it. But that's part of the reason that people don't see the fat loss is
yep.
because their body is responding with cortisol.
It's the stress. And I have a stat on that too. It's actually 11%. So chronic stress elevates cortisol, right? You're sleep deprived, you're in chronic stress, which can increase belly fat storage by as much as 11% over time, specific to belly fat. So that's very interesting too. Elite athletes who prioritize 8 to 9 hours of sleep report reaction times up to 30% faster.
Wow.
That's a big one for me too. And here's my last one on sleep. Sleep deprivation for just 1 week can lower testosterone in men and the growth hormone in both men and women, and it also slows recovery and muscle gain. So just 1 week of sleep deprivation all of a sudden will start affecting your hormones. So something to be considerate about.
Yes. I totally believe that. I had a cold last week and so I didn't sleep well and I definitely felt it. I actually just did not even go to the gym while I was sick because it was too much for my body.
You
But
shouldn't work out. That is a myth. The sweating it out, do not put your body under that stress.
no,
So many people, if they're super sick, I'm not, no, take the break, rest your body. So that's actually a perfect example of what we're talking about today.
yeah. Another thing that can really help with our sleep is not looking at our screens at night. And when I say screens, I mean like getting on social media, your phone, that blue light exposure has really been shown to mess up our sleep. And I will be completely 100% transparent here. I've done that before. I've gone to bed with my phone in my face and I'm tired, But as soon as I turn the light off, my heart starts racing and my mind is going, and I just didn't realize that when I was looking at my phone. I was getting all of these dopamine hits looking at social media, and then as soon as I turn it off, my brain just is wired and it wants to keep going.
We all do it, unfortunately. I do find that the blue light glasses really help that as well, or just getting off your damn phone. That one really helps too.
I think they say like an hour before you go to bed, you should turn it off.
Yeah,
Some other things that can help is having a consistent bedtime and a consistent bedtime routine. And then
100%. Yeah. No,
ex
absolutely. It's very important to make sure you have that sleep hygiene.
Yeah, and then exposing yourself to sunlight or white light in the first thing in the morning, that's really helpful as well. It helps your circadian rhythm get get to be right on.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about active recovery. So stretching, mobility work, walking, low impact activities to keep your body primed. Light movement after intense training can increase circulation by up to 30%, speeding up nutrient delivery to muscles. That is such an interesting stat. I actually just found, I didn't know that it was that much, 30%. So if you are sore, you are, for your recovery, you don't want to not move. So we're saying to, for example, if your legs are so sore that, I'm not telling you to lift another next day to go further, but moving your body during that time will help you recover. So go for a walk, for example. So active recovery, the next day muscle, like that active recovery reduces next day muscle soreness by up to 20-25%. So the dynamic stretching, for example, just moving your body through that motion will really help loosen things up. And we all do it. Oh, I'm tight. When you're sitting for a long period of time and you got to get up and loosen yourself up, it's the same idea.
Can I tell you my secret weapon for that?
Yes, tell it.
I love to hula hoop, and I've noticed that when my hips or my glutes or abs are tight and sore from a good workout, if I do the hula hoop for 10 or 20 minutes, it really loosens those things up.
I love it. I should get you to teach me how to hula hoop. I've never been great at that. And you're not the first recently, actually, in the past month that has told me they hula hoop. So that's exciting. Maybe I should pick one up. Um, just a little bit here, though, another stat about the active recovery practices. Mobility training can improve the joint range of motion by 15% within 4 weeks. So when you are sore, you are tight, it's very important. No, we don't want to train harder at that moment in that muscle group, but moving and dynamic stretching will definitely help the recovery and keeping that range of motion, because you want to incorporate the strength training with the mobility work. So while you're healing, you're incorporating both.
That's good.
And then what was my next stat here? Regularly stretching helps maintain muscle elasticity and reduces the injury. That's another thing. So the people that stretch have a 30% better chance of not hurting themselves. So you reduce your risk of injury by 30% just by incorporating stretching into your recovery routine. That's a lot. That's
Yeah,
big.
yeah, that's good. I love um I love to do some stretching after my workouts. It feels so good.
Yes. But if you feel tight the next day, it is important. Now, I do want to also point out that if you are tight and you're sitting all day and you go to stretch a muscle beyond the range of motion, you could hurt yourself too. So you don't want to go too crazy if you're super tight and super sore, but go for that walk, slowly loosen up your body, and then dynamic range of motion throughout it, because you don't want to hurt yourself by stretching a tight muscle too far.
Yeah. Yeah, so build that recovery into your routine and um, do the stretches. But even the best training and recovery plan can fall apart if your everyday lifestyle doesn't support it. So let's talk about the choices you make outside the gym that make all the difference.
Ooh,
So nutrition.
Nutrition, baby, that's yours. Let's go.
Yeah. So I was years old when I learned that you should eat a little carbs and protein before your workout and then have a good dose of protein after your workout. And that really helps support you during your training. You need the protein to help you with your muscle recovery, but you also need carbs to support your workout. That's where the body that's its main source of energy. And so having some carbs an hour or so before your workout is really going to help you to bring the energy to your workout. And then an hour or so after your workout, it's really important to get more carbs and protein in because when you're in the workout, you're going to burn up that glycogen and your body's going to want that restored after that. And that's where the carbs come in. And then again, that protein will help with the recovery of the muscle damage.
Healthy carbs, though.
Yes, we
Yeah.
like healthy carbs. We need to get that fiber in. You don't want to eat a ton of fiber before your workout because fiber digests really slowly and you don't want to feel that brick in your stomach.
Yeah.
So, you do want to plan to have fiber throughout the day, though. I usually recommend 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day to most women. And then with protein, you don't want to just eat a big dose of protein in the morning and then the rest of the day not eat any protein. You want to time your protein throughout the day so that you're having it at regular intervals.
Every meal, every meal,
Yes.
every
So
meal, focus on protein.
if you're new to this and you don't know how much protein you should eat, try to find 30 grams of
Yeah.
protein each meal, at least.
Yeah.
That is bare minimum. So,
I got a couple stats.
okay, read us some.
Athletes who meet their protein needs recover up to 40% faster between sessions. 40%. Here's another interesting one that touches on what you just said with in relation to the carbs before. Skipping meals can reduce training performance by as much as 20% due to the depleted glycogen stores. So think about that. You don't eat a little bit of carbs because you're so worried about it making you gain body fat, but yet the exercising, the movements you're doing in the gym, you can't do as well, and you have 20% less to give because you don't have the energy to perform the workouts.
Yeah.
So,
And if you have energy, you're not going to have the focus and you're just not going to feel good.
well, it's like putting water in your car instead of gasoline.
Mhm.
How far is it going to get you?
Yeah. So, some carbs that I recommend before a workout, a piece of fruit. I usually have a banana. Sometimes I'll have rice cakes. Rice cakes are almost pure carbs. Whole grain toast, oats, maybe a little sweet potato, something like that. And protein would be something like Greek yogurt, whey protein, or whatever protein you like to use, protein powder,
Eggs are my go-to.
eggs, chicken. So, those are some good examples of those things. So, like before your workout could be maybe half a protein shake and a banana or something like that. And then finish your protein shake after your workout, have some eggs. I like to have a little Canadian bacon with my eggs, and then I'm good for the morning.
Try to get your protein within 45 minutes of your workout. That's a good window, 45 to an hour. Try to, that I focus definitely on my carbs and protein before my workout, but my biggest focus after my workout is definitely my protein. And depending also on what you're doing, if you are in a season of wanting to gain more muscle mass or just have more definition, whatever. But if it has any manipulation to muscles, you definitely need to fuel those muscles. And that is with, as we all know, protein.
Yes, and if you are trying to gain muscle mass, you need to be at least at maintenance calories, if
Yeah,
not a little bit of a surplus.
yeah.
You're really looking for some major gains. You're going to want to be in a calorie surplus, but you want to do it strategically. You don't want to just guess at what you're eating. But if you're in a calorie deficit, your muscle building is going to be very, very, very slow, if at all, because your body needs that support. It's like asking somebody to build a house, but you're giving them matchsticks
I
for the
got a
material.
stat for that one.
Okay.
Chronic calorie reduction, oh, sorry, chronic calorie restriction without adequate nutrients can lower your resting metabolic rate by 10 to 20%.
Mhm.
So if you're not eating enough nutrients, enough calories properly, the right foods, 10 to 20% lower metabolism. So while we're trying to restrict, because we want to lose weight and we think that that's what's going to get us our results, if you don't eat enough, you may not get your results.
Do
Interesting.
you have a statistic about how it affects our metabolism if we put on muscle?
Well, I don't have an exact number, and I probably should as a trainer, but I can tell you the more muscle mass you have, the higher your metabolism. I
Yeah.
can tell you that any of my clients, I don't focus on cardio anymore with my clients. I focus on weights because that's where the magic happens. And I've said that over and over again, and especially in these podcasts. If you want a body that looks good naked, buddy, you got to lift. You got to have enough nutrients, protein to nourish your muscles to get that muscle mass,
Yeah.
because if you don't have the nutrients, you're not going to have the muscle mass. And the more muscle mass you have, the higher your metabolism is, bottom line. Another fun fact, the higher the increased muscle mass, the increased bone density. So the higher
Wow.
your muscle mass is, the better your bone density is. So if there's any reason alone as you're aging and when we're in menopause to start lifting weights, that is it right there. Before we move on to mindset though, one more stat. Adequate hydration alone can improve physical performance by 14% and mental focus by 13%. So make sure you're hydrating in between those, well, during sips during your workout, but in between your workouts, make sure you're hydrating enough.
Yeah, I agree. And I was just going to say that too before we moved on.
Good minds
So
think alike.
let's talk about mindset. Having a positive, disciplined mental approach really helps drive consistency. And
Yes.
we've talked about consistency trumps almost anything else.
It's the name of my business, healthy mind, healthy body. If you don't have a healthy mind, you will not have a healthy body. And fitness starts in the mind. And I was actually surprised. My last injury, when it happened, I wasn't able to train clients because I was in bed myself. So I focused on mindset more. And miraculously, my clients received better results. That was a turning point for me in my life and my training of, hey, hold up. Maybe the results and this magic doesn't happen in the gym. And it doesn't. It happens in the mind that you create before you even get to the gym. Positive self talk can improve strength performance. Actually, guess, what do you think it is? What's the stat?
30%.
Oh, it's not quite that high. 12 to 15% endurance. Sorry, muscle strength by 12% and endurance by 15%. Just by positive self-talk. That's
Yeah.
crazy. The benefits and the gains you could get just by an extra 15%. And all that takes is just not being negative. There you
Well,
go.
I'll give an example. This wasn't really negative mindset, but I used to do group exercise classes, and I went very faithfully twice a week, and I had my certain classes that I liked, and I would walk in and I would pick up the 5 pound weights. Well, guess how much my kid weighed at the time? He weighed at least 20 pounds. So I'm in there doing bicep curls with 5 pound weights, and my friend said, "You can lift heavier than that, can't you?" And I was like, "No, I can't." And now I can do it with like 20 or 25 pound dumbbells.
Yay.
But I just was in this mindset of my weights are the 5 pound weights. I didn't know about progressive overload and stuff like that yet. So
Isn't
that
that
just
funny?
that's just a small example of how your mindset about something can affect your results.
The self-limiting beliefs are a
Yeah.
real thing. Here's another fun fact though. Writing down fitness goals increases the likelihood of achieving them by 42%. Just by writing them down. So write them down, people. What do you want? It doesn't have to take long. Like everybody thinks, so I want to say everybody, many people think journaling takes all this time. It doesn't. It takes 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Write down your goals. Everybody has them. But if you don't write them down, you're not going to have as much of a possibility of achieving them.
Yeah.
Here's another one for you. People with a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So the difference being fixed is I'm stuck in my limiting beliefs. I can't possibly do more than this thing. So people with a growth mindset, I absolutely can't do it now, but I'm going to try and I'm going to grow into it, are 47% more likely to stick with fitness programs over a 12-month period. Mindset, that's it. So when I have a client come into one of my classes and says, there's no way I can do that. You're right. You can't. Don't even need to see you doing it. I can tell you can't because you just said it. You just claimed it. So if we claim it before we do it, right? So instead of going into something and say, I can't do that, that looks challenging, but I'm going to give it a whirl. I'm going to do my best. Or you know what? I'm going to keep trying until I do succeed. But it's all in the mindset.
I love that. Another helpful tip is to surround yourself with support. Have
Mm-hmm.
friends that you go with or that you can talk to about it with, people who have similar interests. I'll tell you about 10 years ago, I saw two of my neighbors walking in my neighborhood, and I used to, or I still do. I walk in the morning and I walk in the evening, and I ran into them and I was on my walk and they said, "Why don't you join us?" And so we have 2 days a week that we walk around the neighborhood 4 times, and it ends up being about a mile and 3/4 or something like that. And we've been doing it every single week for 10 years.
Wow. Consistency.
Consistency. And it's because we know that someone's out there waiting for us at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Accountability.
Yeah. And
Yep.
it keeps us in the groove of going on those walks. And so that's actually what I do on my recovery days is I go on walks with my neighbors.
Would you be shocked to know I have a stat for that too?
I would not be shocked.
Consistency over perfection leads to 3 times greater long-term results in habit change studies. 3 times. So you
Yes.
have 3 times more, you're more likely, 3 times more likely to see those changes, those results, just by being consistent. So like I said, 10 minutes a day trumps 3 months of 1 hour a day anytime. Make sure
I
you keep doing it. Here's
love
another
that.
one of being with a friend. What do friends do? And I'm going to actually, and please don't get mad at me, even though you can, I guess, after we stop recording here, but I want to be transparent with our listeners. Our conversation we had before we started, and you and I struggling with imposter syndrome and self-worth ourselves, and using each other to build up our confidence. And what a blessing that we have each other to do that. This is a new adventure for both of us. We're literally jumping in. And are we experts at podcasts? Nope. But what are we showing this world? That, hey, anything is possible. And if you try, that's when the success happens. And maybe it won't right out of the gates, but man, we're going to give it every effort. But my point here is that we have each other to lift each other up, because the problem is that negative self-talk affects us significantly more than we realize. So that self-compassion, when you're starting any fitness routine, during setbacks, this is an interesting stat actually. Self-compassion during setbacks improves adherence rates by up to 40% compared to self-criticism. So if you're with a friend, an accountability partner, and you have somebody lifting you up and encouraging you and holding you accountable to that negative self-talk and that forget it, I'm giving up. If you have that self-compassion, 40% better chance of success. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned perfection earlier. You said consistency over perfection. And I actually we hear that word a lot. I feel like it comes up a lot. And I was thinking the other day that if you are looking for perfection, you're always going to be disappointed because we are human.
Yep.
There is nothing perfect in this world.
Nope.
And and if we're constantly measuring ourselves up to something that's perfect, quote unquote perfect, we're constantly going to be disappointed. And that goes with anything, anything. And so that's why consistency trumps perfection because consistency is something you can actually achieve. Perfection is not.
That's good. Yep. Let's talk a little bit about surrounding yourself with support, the role of community, accountability partners, and the environment in achieving our goals. So people actually with a workout partner, what do you think the stat is on their success than if they start a program alone?
Oh, I think it's going to be high, high, high.
45%. So people with a workout partner are 45% more likely to exercise regularly compared to those that start alone. Very interesting.
And there are different people. So some people have personalities that they're just going to do it anyway, whether they have a companion or not. And
Mhm.
there are some people who need that accountability. They show up because they know someone else is going to be there waiting for them.
Wouldn't it be nice if we showed up for ourselves like that? I can't say I always show up for myself, but it's funny how human behavior is. Here's another fun fact. Joining a fitness community. So like you said, your group fitness classes, any sort of a community, Zumba. That's why Zumba is so popular because of the community, man. The Zumba girls in any fitness facility, they're tight. But joining a fitness community can increase adherence to training by up to 80% in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
So if it takes about 3 months to form a habit, and if you join a community, you have an 80% better chance. Man, join a community.
Mhm.
Pickleball. Start playing pickleball. Whatever your community is, join one. Walking
Right.
clubs, wherever you are in your community, find one. Because my friends, 80%, that's big.
Yeah, we want that connection. We need that friendship and those are just great places to find a new group of people who with a common interest.
And here's for those people that say they can't get out. Even though the stats are much higher for when you physically go to a community group, virtual accountability groups still boost consistency by 22% compared to tracking alone. So yes, the virtual groups aren't quite as effective, but they're still effective. So whatever your situation is, just start doing the research. And man, with the internet today, no one has an excuse not to find a group. They really don't.
Yep.
Oh, here's another good one before we move on, my friends. Social support has shown to improve weight loss outcomes by 66% over going solo. So if you want to embark in this journey of weight loss and transforming your body into a strong, lean body, you will have a 66% better chance if you have a social support group versus if you want to do it by yourself. You were just actually talking about a gentleman online. Hey, Christy, that I don't know his name you were talking about, but a gentleman that decided to post his social media his weight loss journey on social media, and the support he's getting is incredible.
Yeah, people want to see him succeed, and I think just surrounding yourself with people who want to see you succeed is really worthwhile.
All right, this one's a long one, so let's move on to our last section here. So when you start aligning those bad habits with your goals, that's when you'll actually notice the momentum starting to build. And if you're ready to go deeper, there are some amazing tools and practices that can amplify everything you're already doing. So let's actually dig into some of those. So I'm a broken record, and I know daily practice of journaling, so important. It helps with clarity and resilience. That's just the bottom line. It helps rewire the brain. Negative self-talk rewires your brain in a very negative way. Positive journaling, reminding your brain, pen to paper, visibly seeing that writing on a piece of paper, reading it, so important.
Yeah, and I would add to that writing down your wins at the end of the day. So I've been listening to the audiobook The Gap and the Gain recently by Benjamin Hardy. It's such a good book, and if you haven't listened to that or read that, I would highly recommend it. But he talks about writing down your wins at the end of the day, and that kind of gives your brain a dopamine hit. But also writing down 3 things that you want to accomplish tomorrow. Because when you go to sleep at night, your subconscious is still at work. And it can actually, if you ask yourself a question, your subconscious brain can continue to work on that throughout the night. And I've actually had this happen before. So I'm a quilter and I sew lots of straight lines, but sometimes I have to do a seamstress job, which I'm not very trained in. My son was going to prom and he needed his tuxedo hemmed, and I needed to do this thing called a blind stitch hem. And my sewing machine will do that, but I could not figure out how to turn the pants so that I could do the blind stitch. And I watched multiple videos on YouTube, and my brain could not see how to turn those pants the right way to do it the right way. So I wrote myself a little note before I went to sleep, and in the night, my subconscious must have been working on that because I woke up in the morning, I opened my eyes, and I actually said out loud, "I know how to do it." And my husband was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I know how to do that blind stitch hem." I went right into my sewing room. I got the tuxedo pants. I didn't even practice. I just turned them the right way and put them through my sewing machine and did the blind hem stitch without a single practice. And so I just that's kind of my like my testimony of how powerful the brain is and your subconscious. And so then when you wake up in the morning and you do your 5 minutes of journaling, you write down those things that your brain has been working on in the night.
You just brought me to my next stat.
Why am I not surprised?
Positive journaling for just 15 minutes a day reduces those stress levels, helps your subconscious mind reach the answers by up to 27%. Your problem solving skills will increase 27%. So that's a quarter of your problems right there. More than a quarter of your problems right there. And I wish I guess I could look it up really quick, but there is literally a part of your brain that kind of sits quietly, but it's listening. And that's the part of your subconscious that solves the problems. And that's why they say that if you're having an ongoing issue in life that you just can't seem to solve a problem, write it down. Write it down, write what you think at the time, and your brain does it. It literally solves the problem, a quarter of them. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because actually, this is another one. Regular meditation has been shown to increase gray matter density in the brain areas linked to focus and emotional regulation. That's another big one. So journaling, meditating on it, giving your body or your brain the chance to respond, it's so important as well. have a couple
Yeah.
stats here. I don't know if we have time to go over them though. We're almost done. What the heck? Here we go. Meditation can reduce anxiety symptoms up to 60% in 8 weeks. 60% just by meditating, praying, whatever you want to call it. That's a lot. So I'm not a doctor and telling people to go off their medications, but people that are so quick to just go to the antidepressant over getting to the root of the problem, exercise, proper nutrients, journaling, meditation will reduce so many of your symptoms combined together by like 80%. I bet you if you took apples to apples with how you feel after you're taking an antidepressant versus getting to the root of the problem. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't a place, and I know some people rely on them, and that absolutely is between you and your doctor. What I'm trying to say is don't shy away from the possibilities of getting to the root of the problem and fixing it with other means and not just the pharmaceuticals, for sure. And meditation's a big one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What other tools do we have here, Nichole?
Well, I have another stat about that morning exposure you talked about.
Okay.
Morning exposure to bright light will improve your sleep quality and your mood by 80%. It's
Wow.
crazy. So that's just in the morning, get your exposure to light. I have a happy light right here at my desk. If I know that it's cloudy and I'm not going to get the same light exposure, I'll have that on as quick in the morning as I can. Soon as I'm up, get that light on. Important to keep it on in the morning and turn it off later in the day. Definitely use that one. We already talked about journaling. All right. I'm excited. I ordered my first red light. I'm getting my red light. It's coming today. And I'm very excited. And the reason I bought it is because of this stat. Red light therapy can speed up muscle recovery by 40% and reduce DOMS, what we talked about, by 50% in some studies. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the same all the time, but that's incredible. What about cold plunging? You ever tried that?
I would never.
Oh, you got to try it.
I do not like the cold.
Okay, here's a good stat for you. Cold immersion post-exercise can lower muscle inflammation by how much do you think?
40%.
Oh, close, 30.
Okay.
So that's post-exercise. Get in there, do your cold plunge as long as you can, 30% less inflammation. That's incredible.
Sound
And
of
if you
red
don't
light.
want to do the cold plunge, they have the cold therapy packs. I actually haven't bought one yet. I was going to on good old Amazon, but you could put the cold therapy on the back of your neck. If the plunge itself is too much for you, submerging your face in ice water, whatever that is, there's different ways to submerge. Now you won't get the same muscle recovery, I'm sure, if you're not submerging your body, but hey, it's a step.
Mm. All
All right.
right. Tell me about rebounding. Have you done rebounding?
I have, and funny enough, I had this trampoline for so many years. I have a complete gym, especially when COVID hit. I went out and invested copious amounts of money to have my own gym. Guess I shouldn't publicly say that, should I? But anyway, I did get rid of my trampoline, and I will be buying another one soon, because since then I've learned a lot about rebounding and lymphatic drainage. So that's another thing that I've incorporated into my daily routine is lymphatic drainage and learning about that. So if you haven't learned about it, lymphatic drainage, it's so important for your recovery. Rebounding really helps with that. Another nice thing about lymphatic or about rebounding is that it helps with your bone density significantly. So as you're aging, as you're, menopause, start jumping on that trampoline, rebounding. And I'm not telling you to do it if you have an injury, talk to your doctor first. But so many improvements with your physical health when you rebound. But lymphatic drainage, got a good stat for that one.
Okay.
Lymphatic drainage massage can increase lymph flow by 20 times the normal rate. So improved lymphatic circulation helps reduce swelling and remove cellular waste more efficiently, supporting immune health. So if your lymphatic system is plugged, essentially, you're not going to be able to remove the waste out of your body. So it's going to build up. So it's going to cause inflammation, and you're not going to heal as properly. So focusing on lymphatic drainage, it doesn't take long. It really is a game changer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, have you got any more stats for us?
I got so many here. I was just thinking that we're probably wrapping it up here pretty soon. Okay, fine. I'll read a few stats on rebounding. Rebounding can increase lymphatic circulation by 3 times the amount. So that's very interesting. So I'm planning to get my trampoline, and I'll be doing extra lymphatic drainage. A 15-minute rebounding session can burn 100 to 150 calories while being gentler on the joints than jogging. Interesting. NASA research found rebounding to be 68% more effective than running for cardiovascular fitness. I don't know how I feel about that one yet, but that is a stat I found. And regular rebounding can improve balance and coordination by 35% in older adults. So start jumping.
Yeah, I've actually was looking into that before we decided to do this podcast, and I don't know where I would put my little trampoline, but it looks really fun.
I was just thinking though, I'm gonna want to get the one with the bar, because man, that could get a little dangerous.
I know.
But they have them, right? They have the ones that you can support on the sides if you're just, just a little bit of bouncing and just work your way up.
Yep, yep, they sure do. Well, let's wrap this up. If you are picking up weights for the first time, or if you've been training for years, just remember it's not just about the program, it's about how you show up for it. Your execution, your recovery, your habits, and even the little extras all work together to create lasting change.
Because, my friends, your comeback isn't built in one workout. It's built in how you approach each day, each choice, and each step forward. Start with intention, follow through with strategy, and give your body and mind the support they deserve. That's how you rise. That's how you transform. And that's how you live out your own comeback season. Thank you for joining us. Until next time. Please remember, the conversations we share here are for informational and motivational purposes only. We are not licensed medical professionals, and this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace guidance from your doctor or your healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare team before making changes to your nutrition, your fitness, or your mental health routines. Your health and well-being comes first, and we want you to move forward safely with the right support for your journey.